Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. I'm joined today by a very special guest. Bainz is here. It's great to see you, man.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's your first time at Sweetwater.
It is, and what a place this is.
Oh, well, thank you for saying so. You came in to do a masterclass.
I did. We had a mixing masterclass with a bunch of kids yesterday that came by, and we mixed 2 songs from the jump, and it was really, really exciting. They learned a lot, and it went really well.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you here. I know you were here with the Hazelrigg guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great working with them. I've been a huge fan of their equipment for a while, and it's really been a driving force in my mixes recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's awesome stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, in a few minutes here. But I was fascinated to look at your career because it looks like you've exploded. But there's been a path there, right?
Thank you,
From India to Australia to Florida to New York and Dubway and analog, and tell us the story.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey. I started off. I grew up in India and decided, I went to college to Australia for right out of high school. It was a regular business program. I dropped out in 3 months and decided to go to SAE because I always I wanted to be an audio engineer before I knew what that meant. It was the cool thing to do, and I think I just never had the chops to be a rock star. So I was like, you know what? If I can't be one, let me work with them.
Right.
And yeah, that's how it started. Went to SAE Melbourne. Then I was like, okay, I want to do this. I moved to Full Sail in Florida. Did really well there. Graduated valedictorian with a 4.0, and went to Dubway in New York right after. Worked at studios in New York, Dubway, then Blast Off, and. I think I was just always at the studio, always learning, always applying what I learned, adapting, trying new stuff. So it showed, and I was like, I kind of hit my threshold working for someone else at another studio really early. Met some cool people, and we're like, let's do this ourselves. And that's turned into Crosby, which is, done some crazy stuff. We ended up moving to LA when we had hit our threshold from New York again, expanded. Now we have a facility in Burbank. We're building a new facility. It's over 30,000 square feet in North Hollywood.
Wow.
6 rooms, Atmos room, got my mix room. There's a bowling alley in there.
Wow.
So it's going to be a real epic journey. And yeah, I've been just trying to engineer and mix, and now I'm focusing primarily on mixing, trying to get out of engineering or recording, I should say. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's quite a journey there. And one thing that I'll mention is you said you were spending all your time in the studio or whatever. That really hasn't changed, has it? When I look back, I think I saw in 2020, was it 180 releases had your name on them?
It was a lot. It was a lot that year, man. I think COVID happened, and then the artists just. There was no tour, so they just kept putting music out. We were in houses recording. We did this collaboration album with Chris Brown, and me and my buddy Tizio mixed it together, recorded it together, mixed it together. It was cool. There was a lot of stuff coming out, and now over the past year, it's a lot of stereo stuff, but now we also have to do the Atmos. So the workload is just constantly getting more and more and more, it's a great place to be, and it's a great problem to have. I'd rather have more work than less.
Yeah, right. One of the things that you've mentioned in the past and talked about is one of the keys to your success if in working with the artists and developing them is the relationships you have with the artists. And you said something about going deep into their culture. What does that mean?
I think hip hop is it's a culture. It's a way of life. It's how they've grown up, how they've lived, and I, as an outside, I don't want to say outside, as someone who didn't grow up that I needed to understand that. I needed to understand the lingo. I needed to understand the slang. I needed to be someone that wasn't awkward in a control room around some really large personalities. I needed to be someone who wasn't the loudest person in the room, never the loudest person in the room, but always ready to talk. Not just someone who's just weird and does spaced out. Of someone that if they're having a conversation about the record and then they look at you, expect you to do what they just had a conversation about, you should be paying attention kind of thing. And I was like, for my first job in New York, I remember when I got interviewed, he asked me to name 5 rappers. No, he asked me the names of 5 rappers that worked there at the studio. I didn't know one of them. Within a month of me I still got the job, but within a month of me getting the job, I knew I was on the blogs every day. I immersed myself in the culture, and that's what I continue to do. And also, you spend so much time with them, it becomes family. We're in the studio, there's Thug has his room here, Duke has his room here, Gunna's there, the producer Weezy's there, Taurus, and management as well is there, people from the label are there. It's one big family. And I think that's also, that helps you when you like spend so much time in the studio. You gotta be able to like hang out and have a good time and obviously make music, but it's still, you know, you're living there, so you can't bump heads with people all the time and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that carries over into any genre. I mean, obviously hip hop, like you said. I mean, it's
absolutely
important there, but if you're not connected to the artist, if there's a disconnect there, I don't see how you can be authentic with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the word, authentic. Yeah, and you need to be authentic. You need to. Yeah, otherwise, it comes across. People can smell bullshit right away.
Right.
You really do obviously have to have your technical chops right, but I'm saying that's like a given. Like you shouldn't be in that position if you don't have your technical chops right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff as well that goes with it.
Right, but man, speaking of technical chops, when I look at the process you have for tracking vocals, and I know you're doing more mixing now, but all the tracking you've done, it really seems like it's almost like you're capturing a live performance. And you've talked a little bit about how some of that is bar by bar, but it doesn't come across that way when you hear it. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually a really good way of looking at it, because they're in the control room. That's what I think has changed. We've got all this technology is advanced, and there's so many new plugins. There's all of this new stuff. There's new gear. But the step that this genre has taken backwards is recording in the control room. You know, you go ahead and get beautiful live room, do all this treatment, but then you sit in the control room where there's another 30 people talking.
Right.
You know, as an engineer, it's a little stressful and hard, but I have come to understand the importance of it, the importance of him being connected to me, him being connected to the screen, and when I say him, I just mean anyone, whoever the artist is, him, her, we all work like that. There's something about the performance, some magic that gets done that wouldn't have been there otherwise, and then it's my job to clean it up. So
right.
it's a lot of iZotope RX. I can't remember the last song I did where I didn't use iZotope RX, and it's individual modules of it, sending it through RX Connect, like, you know, talked about earlier, like looks like photoshopping the vocals to get sounds out. There's records where you can hear people having full conversations outside in the room while the artist is recording. You wouldn't know when the record came out. You wouldn't know that because there's music going on and all, but we've cleaned it up in a way that it works.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of it is done in, like, I think the pocketing of the vocals, nudging here, back in that also really helps a lot. And, you know, basic stuff, make sure fades are good. D-click is one of my favorite tools in iZotope. For some reason, there's always weird jitter and artifacts these days, and D-click is my best friend when that happens.
Yeah. That though also speaks to the connection again with the artist, of being able to sit down with them and capture that performance and that energy and be focused when there is other stuff going on.
And I tell a lot of the engineers that work in the studio when we're working, like, when you're recording, it's not your time to have fun. It's your time to be focused and capture everything they're doing in the best possible way you can. Your time to have fun comes when you mix later or when you do it rough or whatever, but don't try to go crazy. Like, you do cool things, do effects, but don't spend 5 minutes dialing in an EQ when the guy's waiting to record. You know what I mean? You gotta move, and it's gotta, speed in recording is so important, and it's just been such a big part of my workflow and my life that now when I'm mixing, I actually calm down. I do it I chill, I take my time. I'm like, obviously, I'm fast at Pro Tools, so I'm going to still move it a certain way, but I'm not like bam, 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 bam,
right.
which is how I am in a tracking session usually.
Right. So when you go to mix, you'll have the beat that you're working with, you'll have the vocals and all the elements and things. You've talked a little bit about some of the challenges of getting stems and things to bring in there. Tell us how you build the mix. What do you start from and how do you work that?
So first off, someone is, it's usually Jeff, who's Thug's manager. He's like, okay, this song, I need you to mix this song. So I'm like, cool, I have to find the session. If I've done it, great, I'll have the session. If I haven't, it's a hunt. You try to go find the session. Now you found the session. First things first, we find the name of the 2-track, find the producer, and I will get on a phone call myself. I won't even wait for the A&R. Sometimes he'll be like, figure it out, or he knows that I'm gonna go out of my way to find it. And luckily now I've gotten to a place where if I call a producer, he will take my call. They know that it means that the record's about to come out or something like that. I've been, it still takes time, but I get the stems, and then okay, cool. Now we have the stems. Now we gotta line it up to the 2-track because we rearrange the 2-track a lot when we get it when we're recording. Take a section here, loop these 2 bars, and just go crazy, mangle it up. It's a completely different thing by the time we're done. Now all of those edits need to match with the the stems. So once all of that happens, I kind of Every record is different. I kind of get the instruments going, get it sounding, balanced out like the rough, but then start adding mojo. I run stuff through the VLCs and the V&E combo, just synths and anything like that. And what I found that does is it just enhances like the lows and the low mids in a way. It brings out brightness in a way, but it sucks out the badness. And I don't know what voodoo is going on in there, but or what magic is going on in there. But it makes my life later easier. I'm using way less plugins and stuff like that. So yeah, get a basic blend going. Then I'm doing my vocals quick. There's a lot of vocal surgery, and I want the system to act snappy when I'm doing that. So I try to do that earlier on, at least the cleanup and all the edits and all of that stuff. And then I'm just mixing, man. I bring the 808 up, start balancing the music, get the vocals in there, add some effects. And on my setup is I have a HDIO, Blackline modded HDIO, got 16 channels going out into a 5059 summing mixer. From there, I've got a couple of pieces of gear that I like to go through. The first thing would be the VT5, and that just makes everything three-dimensional sound expensive. If I need low end, that's when I really fine-tune the shape of the mix. But it's there from the jump so that any decision I make is informed based on that, because it does have an impact on the sound. Then I've got an NG bus comp and a couple of digitally controlled pieces of gear, which I love for the automation and the recall. And yeah, I've got some Flock digital patch bays that make all of this stuff really easy. I like to think I'm a little nerdy. I've got a lot of toys and I like to use them on mixes. So
yeah, you've taken quite a hybrid approach.
It is, yeah.
Incorporating the analog along with the digital stuff.
Yeah, very, very hybrid. And I like it that way. It's not. I have some friends that do great mixes in the box, probably better than I do. But for me, this is just how I'm comfortable. I get to where I want to get to relatively quick using these pieces, and it's less work in the box, less having to correct things that don't need to be corrected if they were done right in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that stands out to me when I listen to your mixes is the massive bottom end, the 808, and the bass and everything is so huge. But there's a real clarity to your mixes. Sometimes when you have that much bottom end and you've got other stuff going on, it gets hard to have that vocal sit solid in the middle and be clear. I
think earlier on, I wanted to have a sonic signature. I think it's important and something, and like, for me, it was like, okay, cool, what, like, big low end, everyone likes big low end, but I wanted to have big low end with very clear hi-fi vocals that weren't bright per se, but they're clear and present. And in order to get a vocal like that, it's a lot of cleaning up and surgery that I get it. But I think once I hit it, everyone's like, oh, cool, we've got a sound, this works. I'm going to stick with that. And yeah, clean, clear vocals, bring them up front. It's just a lot of surgery that happens in between.
Right.
And I think also it's, people are going to hate me for saying this, but a lot of times when people push for a higher lufts, you're gonna lose low end information. And I try to not go crazy over that. I try to just mix it and leave enough space for the waveform to complete.
Right, yeah, instead of clipping it off.
Yeah.
Is it also a matter of carving the EQ on the rest of the instruments? So you've got this big bottom end, there's got to be a space there in the middle still. Do you do that with panning? Do you do that with EQ? Or how do you allow that space for the vocal to speak in there?
Yeah, it's a lot of dynamic EQing, panning, just carving things out and shaping them so that they fit, and just automation. I like towards the end of the mix, that's the last step. Even if it's not there, I'll go in and force myself to do things, or automate things. Even from the jump with clip gaining, every word, every syllable. I use clip effects a lot, which is built into Pro Tools HD. Pro Tools Ultimate, and I've reassigned my keyboard shortcuts 1 through 5 to, instead of being zoom presets, they're clip effects presets, and I fly through edits like that. So if there's an S, I could see, visually, you get so used to recognizing, condensed harsh waveforms, real quick, select it, break it, and with one click, I've got a filter going on at the top, a little dip at 8K, a little dip at 5K. There's areas that I know, and if I want to, that's a great starting point for me. And then I'll go ahead and dial it in and stuff. So it's a lot of editing and going in, and then then the fun stuff comes later. You're actually mixing. You got to get your hands dirty first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So traditionally, if you will, when I look back, your vocal chain was a C800G to a 1073 to a TubeTech CL1B.
With the DBX 902 in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that still the chain that you go to as your first choice?
Well, then the thing is, the reason I was using that chain is because one, it's there everywhere, it's been around forever, but it was just always causing this build-up that I was like spending so much time with plugins like Soothe and Pro Q3, you know, just taking out all of this build-up that I think was done with the intent to help stuff translate well on tape. Now we're in the hi-fi world. Ever since I got the VLC stuff, I don't need to do that. It's really, it just adds some real nice stuff, like low, what is it, even order harmonics in the low end that I haven't found with anything else. It's just, the sounds opened up and I haven't needed to do much more since then. So that's the VLC VNE has been my go-to recording chain since then. And like I said, because I'm mixing so much more, it's an amazing mix tool as well. Like the preamp is like, for me personally, the preamp sounds amazing. It's the best preamp it is, but it can do all this other stuff that I can use in the mix too.
Right.
That I'm really, really digging.
Right. And that's the chain you have behind you.
Yep, there it is.
The Hazelrigg rack there. You know, you got to like that all in one space. And you're ready to go, right? Plug it in and you get the sound.
Absolutely, and it's built on a Pultec style EQ that's I guess like the cut boost, and it's just something about the way it handles that. It's magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So are you using a lot of in the box effects as well, reverbs, delays, those kind of things, or how does that work? Is that out of the box, in the box?
I have a Bricacity M7. That is my only let's call it analog effects unit. Everything else is in the box.
Okay.
I use, I have a basic template that has, you know, all your standard stuff, delays, reverbs, parallels, you know, pitch shifts and all that kind of stuff, doublers. And those are what I consider stagnant effects when I'm working. Yeah, I'll automate them a little bit and stuff, but they're kind of just there to glue the sound of the vocal and stuff like that. Then what I do is when I'm done working on the vocal, I'll commit the vocal bus and drag it down to a section, a folder I have of, there's probably about 30 inactive tracks over here, starting with a bunch of delay settings with delays and reverbs, and these are one-shot throws that I have. So once I have the committed vocal, and there might be 5-6 plugins on each one, it's just chains that I've developed over time that I like, or I'll build something new, but it's like I go through the mix and I'll grab a vocal here and put it on this quarter note delay. I'm not going to use that again. It'll happen once or maybe twice in a record. I try not to overdo it and try to do something different, and that's like just sprinkling a little, you know, a little magic at the end, a little bit of sauce on it.
Right, right.
Yeah, and then I do a lot of in-the-box processing too, all this cleanup that we have to do and stuff, RX, but the general overall tone is coming from, you know, like the Hazelrigg and the Fern and the Neve stuff that I'm using, the master bus processor and all, just glues everything together. And then, you know, I have the session recall software, so every song that I have in Pro Tools, I have a recall sheet for that, so my recalls are always 100%.
Right.
Which is really important, especially nowadays. Now you got to do stems as well for Atmos right after. Oh yeah, then the mix is done. Now we got to do Atmos.
Atmos, right, right. So let's talk about that. So how do you approach taking a stereo mix and opening it up into this environment?
Well, the stems is the first part, printing the stems, and I think that's really important. If you play your stems and it sounds like the stereo mix, that's a good start. A little lower because you obviously adjusted your limiter and stuff like that, but that's a great start. And I think a lot of times when I get stuff, it doesn't sound like the 2-track. If I haven't mixed it and someone else sent me stems, so that's really important. I get it sounding like the 2-track, because that you want to start at the same point, and then it's just making decisions. You know, seeing what the sound is. I try not to put stuff that's transienty in the top because it tends to do something weird when they come down to headphones. But yeah, just spreading it out, man. Spreading it out. I found that these guys, the fronts and the sides are your best friend. If you want something wide, bring them here, and just have fun, man. It's you know, we've been used to putting everything into left or right for so long that all of a sudden fitting everything into these 2 speakers. Now I have a speaker just for my vocals. Just this instrument has its own speaker. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I bet so. So is your approach to feel like you're in the middle of the mix, or like you're seeing it in front of you with ambience around you?
I think middle. Okay. Middle is how I like to look at it. I don't want to say mid, like the front middle. You know what I mean? Like you're still there. You're still, the screen is all in front of you. It's in your vision, but then there's stuff going on around you, which is cool. And it's been a cool new format. It's fun. Dolby has a Tesla, and I want them to put that system, that Atmos system, in my Tesla.
There you go.
Then I'll be really happy.
Enjoy it all the time. Yeah, man, that's so cool. So is the request for an Atmos, is that pretty much every new thing you're doing, or are you going back into a back catalog?
It's both. It's both. Everything new, yes, you ask for Atmos as well, and then back catalog stuff, and then if you're working with Sony, you have to do the 360 as well, which is it's a whole different format of its own.
Right.
So it's cool. It's a I like that. You know, I got so stuck in my ways for so long, and people tend to do that. But like, it's refreshing learning something new, right, at this point in my career and stuff like that. And I like it. I've driven all the way in, but I'm still doing stereo is my main. You know, I'm never going to stop doing that. That's always going to be my main force. But Atmos is something I'm doing as well.
Yeah. So I'm curious, with the big 808 and the bottom end, do you drop that right in the front? Do you kind of drop it right on? Yeah.
That's my problem with Atmos. I'm not able to get. You can't. There's no limiting. There's no you do. So it's left right. I keep it in the left right. I haven't put it in the center. Left right and LFE with the 808 stuff. We'll try something more interesting. I would have to see what I can do, but that's why I still like stereo is my fun spot, because you could get that. But then there's some genres where, you know, if it's something acoustic or pads, or if it was made with the intent for Atmos, it's just magical. You know, when you sit in this spot and turn around, it's like you've gone into a different. You know, just a different planet or something.
Right. Yeah, so many new options and so many new things to explore. Well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations on all your success, and thanks for coming out here. We appreciate you taking time, man. You're super busy, so
thank you so much.
We really appreciate you being here and sitting down with us. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great spot. I'm going to be back soon.
Oh, good. Yeah, please do. Come back anytime. Yeah. Make some Atmos mixes.
All right, thank you so much,
Great
Mitch.
to see you, man.
All right, good to see you.
And thank you for joining us here in Studio B at Sweetwater. I'm Mitch Gallagher.